Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
Good day, explorers! Broadcast Cal here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone! Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cal out.
And good morning and welcome to the live Friday edition over here at Joey Guns LLC right here in Plainfield, Connecticut. We're live today. So if you stop on down, there's going to be a free shirt giveaway. See the shirt's over my shoulder, actually that shoulder there. And there's lots of stuff for you to shop here at the gun store. Also K&H equipment. It's downstairs right here in Plainfield, Connecticut on Route 12. So if you're down here in the area today, stop on by. We're doing the live show until 12 p.m. So great show. Of course, let's start right off as we usually do with our guest, who we'll be having on. But before that, our producer, Mark. Is your makeup on, Mark? Are you ready? Are you good? Okay. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing, brother?
Good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you. So some good stuff going on today. We have some great guests. I'm going to set you up. Let's get the tongue twisters out of the way. Who do we have on today, Mark?
We got Michelle, who was running for Connecticut State District 24.
Why is it so hard to say Michelle? Watch this. We're going to solve this problem right now. Michelle, how do I say your name?
Coelho.
Thank you. I'll be right back with you. Listen, Michelle, it's not your fault. It's me. And I'm teasing with Mark because every time I hack a name up, Mark, right? It's just like there's no fail. I'm going to always hack names. And so we're on the first name basis. But we have Michelle coming on. She ran for state office here in Connecticut. Really energized campaign. We look forward to sharing her story and see where she's going, right? She's going to run again, or what her observation of that campaign was like. Also, I think Chris Strom from Brooklyn to Baghdad, the author who comes on.
Yes.
And Raven Harrison out of Texas. Raven, of course, starting her own podcast, Raven on the Record, and all the good stuff she's doing. She'll be on as well today. And you never know who else might pop in, right, Mark?
Yeah, we could have anybody. I got a lot of emails, and we sent out a few invites for pop-ups. If they can do it, they'll do it.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So we have kind of shifted a little bit. Obviously, the Daily Show has not been going out live all the time. We're doing pop-ups from different places, a lot of the traveling. And I will be back on the road next week. We'll be in California on the West Coast, heading down into Oklahoma next week. And, just expanding our opportunities here on the show. And without getting into detail, Mark, where do you see some of the guests that we're aligning with? There are a lot of national things you're lining up. What are some of those guests going to be like? Your thoughts?
It's going to be high energy, and I think our viewers are really going to enjoy what's going on. We're going to have to be a little flexible because some people will book and then something comes up, but we're going after a lot of big names, and per your request, I've been getting lots of emails regarding the show, all
Awesome.
positive.
Awesome. So we do have, and I want to say we have General Flynn scheduled at some point. We've been talking with his people. That's still looking good, right? General Flynn's going to become Clay Clark's coming back on. I think you booked him on the 17th, I think, of next month.
Yes, sir. Yeah, February 17th, I believe.
And we are working, right? Is it safe to say that, Clay Clark, the Reawaken tour that goes around the country has been trying to find a place in New England to do their event. And they are talking with us, and in particular you, about maybe finding that location sometime in the summer of 2023.
Yeah, we're looking fall somewhere in New England, Connecticut, Mass, possibly New Jersey. But I'm pushing more for New England, so all our New England viewers could attend.
Perfect. And so if anyone's interested in coming on the show, if you want to contribute, if you want to just send an email, Mark, if you can just put all that information right into the comments so we can get people to come out and see us and talk to us. And if you want us to come out and speak at any of your events, as Mark's talking about, like school board events, if you want us to come out and speak on behalf of the, overreaching, definitely, just demoralizing attempt by these school systems to over-sexualize our children, we'll come out and speak on that behalf as well as we travel or anything. Just let us know. We'd love to be a part and support the movement of, God and patriotism across America. So listen, I've been talking a lot about God lately. I think it's been a pretty well-known fact that I've accepted Jesus in my life. And I think the changes that have come with that have been an amazingly positive thing. How do you see us including this into the show every day? Because I really, I don't want to turn people off. At the same time, I want to welcome that into a platform here. What's your thoughts on that, Mark?
It's pretty much our platform, God, country, family, and
America with no
America.
So, did you want to have me buy you any of the guns? I know I owe you some. Your salary's been I've been piggy banking it away. Do you want me to just pick up something behind my shoulder today and bring it over to the house?
Yeah, 2 or 3. I'm not picky.
The gun industry. We were out at Chacho. Actually, Joe and his wife were out at Chacho from Joey Guns that we're at, one of the sponsors on the Kevin Allen Show. Chacho is so big, Mark, we couldn't even get a chance to see each other when we were both out there from Connecticut, and they were doing their work and running around, and thousands of guests in attendance out there in Vegas for that event. But we'll see. We'll hopefully try to grab Joe when he walks around, because he is not just the guy you see in that character. That is actually Joey right there, sucking on the cigar with guns. That's his look and what he lives like every day. So we'll try to get him on. He's definitely someone you want to hear and listen to. Mark, I'm going to get going here. We'll get Michelle in, and then we'll line up the rest of the guests, and we'll bounce in and out with you. Please keep doing what you do. We appreciate you very much, Mark. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Have a great day.
There you go. And so, we're down here at Joey Guns. Of course, the beauty of this is if you're in Connecticut or in Rhode Island or Massachusetts, say you're driving around today and it's a great day. It's cold, right? It's freezing by the way. Let's get this out of the way. It is so cold here in Connecticut. It is beyond ridiculous. So, I mean, I think the wood on the fire is not going to handle it. I think you're going to have to walk into the fire here in Connecticut to stay warm. But it's going across the country, the weather twist. But we've been lucky and fortunate, right, in the weather. So we're not going to complain. We're just going to take this cold spell and move on. Of course, I'm leaving on Sunday, so I'm happy about getting out to the West Coast, and hopefully the weather's nice out there. A lot of the other things that are going on in the country right now, of course, they had the funeral yesterday for the tragic situation down there with the killing by the 5 police officers in Memphis, Tennessee. And I got to tell you that I'm wondering where this goes. I mean, we saw what happened last time the George Floyd incident took place, and of course the country erupted. A different scenario is that we were in COVID, we were locked down, and of course the lockdown of COVID caused, I think, people even to have more frustration than mostly that was going to be in a normal situation of these kind of tragic situations. But you do see a little bit of a trend, and I've been commenting about it. Mark knows I'm really going to push. I'm going to double down because Michelle Obama today launches her podcast. That's right, Michelle Obama is going to be launching a podcast. Which lines right up with one of my theories. Michelle Obama is going to be running, I believe, for the 2024 election for president of the United States. And I just think it's lining up together. Of course, if you paid attention, who was invited and who was not invited. Of course, Al Sharpton was right up at the podium yesterday leading the way. And you got to ask yourself, why can't someone see him for who he is? But you know what? That's an energy I can't even put time into at this point. But you see people like Ben Crump, the attorney who's representing the family down there. And by the way, I hope that family gets every dime they deserve. I hope they bankrupt the community. I hope they become, the largest lawsuit ever, because the reality is that community, following suit of those like Barack Obama, following suit of like this administration and the movement across this country after George Floyd, especially, they all went into the defund mode. And when you defund the law enforcement, when you start to disqualify, not qualify the applicants, and in this case, what we're hearing now is that these applicants, before becoming law enforcement, needed to pass even an extensive waiver that was established in their municipality. And why did they do that? They did it because, well, they wanted to make it a more open and inclusive process, and I'm all for that. But you see what happens when you put unqualified people into positions. We see situations that took place where 5 individuals became thugs, gang members and thugs. They were a gang that day in uniform. And, for a pro-cop individual like myself, someone who supports law enforcement, I always will, it hurts to have to be honest and real about this situation that took place. But the reality is this took place because of other people's influence. And the influence is the Ben Crumps of the world. The influence is Al Sharpton. The influence is that of this administration, although I don't think Joe Biden has a clue what's going on personally. I think he's diminished mentally, the 25th Amendment on the way. But this is the administration's move. It is to disqualify those who criticize tough on crime policies. It's to tell DeSantis down in Florida he's wrong because of his policies. The southern border can be open, and unqualified cops can go on the streets. And what happens, Joe, when you put that message out there? You get what you got down in Memphis, Tennessee, where 5 thugs killed a young black man. And the fact of the matter is, one of the interesting parts about this, no white cops involved in this killing. Yet it seems like even some of the national trending news, Whoopi herself with her logic, which always is questioned, trying to associate this to some kind of racial movement. Now, I understand the race that's involved here. The black young man of America has been identified under certain people's qualifications as the most victimized individual. We can debate that one down the road, but the reality is, look, hey, the memorial services, or the services that took place yesterday, gathered all those influences, and look at who was in attendance. Not Joe Biden, but yes, Michelle and Barack were there, along with Al Sharpton and the rest of the crew. We're going to see a lot more from them as things go on, and we're going to be back in a moment. Get into some Connecticut politics right here with Michelle, who ran for office, Coelho, who ran for office in Connecticut. She ran in the 24th. Am I right? Let me see. I think we have that 20. Bingo. I got it. The 24th district had a heck of a campaign down there. We did talk to her along that campaign trail way. Met her out at the convention at Foxwoods for the Republican convention. Just a really, really solid individual who I think and I hope is going to stay in the political scene here in Connecticut because we need the new fresh voices. And speaking of fresh voices, we'll go to some other voices here. We'll be back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show live at Joey Guns LLC right here at Route 12 in Plainfield, Connecticut. Stop on down. They're going to be doing hot dogs. I feel like a DJ now. I'm doing my DJ, my pop-up remote. Come on down for a hot dog. You get Joey to actually put the wiener in your hand. He'll actually deliver it to you. And I think you grab a coffee too if you want. Come on down to Joey Guns today, live until 12 p.m. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read The Difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
And welcome back right here live on the Kevin Allen Show. We are at Joey Guns LLC right here in Plainfield, Connecticut. One of our sponsors. Again, Joey Guns. You can come right out here today and search and look at this unbelievable. Take some videos after this unbelievable selection of amazing guns out here. Everything from, I guess, the beginner right on out to the, the real deal gun enthusiast. But come and check them out. They're right above K&H Equipment out in Plainfield, Connecticut. So, folks, let's go to our first guest right here. Again, we introduced Michelle a moment ago. Michelle, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So I want to welcome you. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to your photo, of course, there, so folks know who we're speaking to. Michelle, you and I met, I think, at the convention was the first time officially at Foxwoods, and you decided for some reason, and I don't know why, because I walked away from politics. I got to question someone who wants to get into it, but you got into the race for the 24th House seat here in Connecticut. Let's talk about the experience and why. Why did you want to run for office, Michelle?
Yeah, so I ran for state senate in the 24th because basically fear and fight was really what motivated me to get out there. It was, with the whole overreach with the mask mandates and the vaccinations and the parental rights, constantly trying to take away parental rights. So I, was working full time. I have kids, and this story rang very true to me from my parents I'm a first generation Cuban American. So as I was watching everything here happen in Connecticut, and I had observed it happening in Venezuela, and I had heard about it clearly as to why I'm here as an American in my, with my parents in Cuba. So that was it. Jumped in.
So Michelle, you ran for Senate. Thank you for clarifying. I did say House seat, and I appreciate you clarifying that. So the Senate, it takes a special person for the Senate. By the way, I would never qualify for the Senate. You are much nicer looking and smarter and more patient than I am. The House is where you roll your sleeves up to fight. But one thing the people of this country didn't realize when during this mask mandate, the lockdown, they didn't realize the reaction from the mama bear. The mama bears actually stepped up, didn't they?
They sure did. They sure did.
And what was that
Because you know
impact, you
what?
think? Do you think you guys had an impact on it, Michelle?
Absolutely. We did. You know what? It's funny because there were so many people like me that were just appalled, astonished as to what was being proposed, that a parent would have less rights than, a special interest group or a government over your children, which is still today happening. They're, proposing bills today, the Democrats, regarding our children and vaccination of anybody who's a 12-year-old or above doesn't need.
You're talking about Kevin Ryan. Kevin Ryan,
yes.
The House seat, proposed the bill. Now let's talk about that. You bring it up. Kevin Ryan's, I think, one of the longest serving House members.
Yes.
I've known him my whole life. He was actually very kind to me. I made a very, very, very to the point statement about this, and the statement was, Michelle, I love your thoughts. Is like a guy who doesn't have kids. First of all, should never be in a position to tell us how how our children should be treated. Second of all, someone that's been in the state house and has had a past history like he continuing to serve. I don't know if it's really the point that he should be making to try to push this, carry the water of this administration in Lamont. Your thoughts on Kevin Ryan?
This bill was absolutely outrageous. It was Bill 5480. I hope they've already killed it, but it was to enable children to have access to vaccination without parental consent from the age of 12 and above. Now, any parent knows that you send your school to daycare, to school, whatever the case is, they can't even put suntan lotion on your child. They can't give them an aspirin. And they're going to go ahead and try to give them a vaccination that has shown medical side effects that are more than alarming, and not notify the parent while the child might be having some sort of reaction and be none the wiser. It's absolutely outrageous. That's just one.
It's insanity, right? When you think about like the parental rights and the challenge that folks like yourself, Michelle, you were challenged with, it was like, okay, the mask mandate, vaccination, church was removed. We're all removed from church. We weren't able to go to our health facilities, gyms, and now they found the one target that they could. Well, they thought at least they could really divide us on, is that's our children. How wrong were they in this philosophy of actually attacking? Because I think they're regretting that now.
They sure are. And to be, I ran for the Board of Ed. That was kind of when I first tossed my hat in just to see how can I help. I went down to the BRTC and they're like, run for Board of Ed. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? So that was really, there's so many people that woke up that supported me. First time out, because it was about voice and choice and stopping the overreach, absolutely outrageous overreach. We ended up getting more votes than the mayor. First time out, more votes than anybody on the ballot. That's how serious parents are about their children. And, they stood up. And then again, we were kind of facing the challenge on the Board of Ed, where the vaccinations were, the mask mandates were going to be lifted in February. And our district is looking to possibly not entertain that conversation for 6 weeks until mid-March. And
that's
every
insane.
other, absolutely insane not to even put it. So you know what? It started, we got calls, we got people coming to the hearings, we got letters and emails, and we were able to lift it and give the parents the right and the choice.
Michelle, I want to ask you something. So you were a part of the board. Were you on the Board of Ed?
I'm on the Board of Ed in Danbury, one of the largest Board of Eds in the state of Connecticut. The only city that does not have a charter school, so I'm on that fight for choice.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on in Danbury.
It's interesting because when you look at the Board of Eds across this country, I went to Lisbon Board of Ed right around Christmas time to step up and ask them if they would sign a petition saying that they will not be a part of the overreach of these Board of Eds and government movements to over sexualize our children. And, you know, the Board of Ed was made up of lots of Republicans in that community. They ended the meeting. They didn't want to respond to me. They wanted to end the meeting. They didn't want anything out of that discussion. And I wonder, how are the Board of Eds right now when, you know, behind the scenes, you know, in the coffee room, are you talking about the differences with each other to try to get there so we can fix this nonsense?
You know what? Everybody on that Board of Ed, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, brings a different perspective, right? Some have been doing it all their lives on every PTO possible and, you know, taking every course. I myself, you know, I've got children from 25 to 13. So that's my experience. One of my sons had IEPs. And so I went through that whole part of the system and moving schools. So when you're in there and you're caucusing with your party, you do have different perspectives, absolutely, and certain things are more important to certain candidates than others.
I just
So
wonder. I wonder
you
sometimes,
have
like,
to
because
learn about politics.
yeah, oh, it is. But you know, when you talk about like children, right? It's like simple. Let's protect our children. That should be the first
Yes.
priority. And it seems like some of these people have just gotten in line with this nonsense, this madness that they don't know how to even stand up for themselves. Because I know a lot of them don't agree with it. They just kind of go along with it. So you
Yep.
ran for office. Who's the individual you ran against in Connecticut?
Senator Julie Kushner.
Let's talk about why you wanted to run against Senator Julie Kushner.
Well, first of all, she's been working in the unions or a union representative for 50 years. So she is both on the education committee and the labor committee. So between the two, she has refused Danbury, its charter school that was approved in 2018 because she does not want that competition coming into Danbury. It would be a school that would serve 770 students. It would be no increase to the taxpayer. It would be exactly what we need. We are busting at the seams. We're at 12,200 students right now in Danbury Public Schools, and we have 3,801 high school.
Wow.
So our Republican Board of Ed and the Republican administration here in Danbury with Mayor Dean Esposito, we've been able to get the Career Academy, which will service 1,400 students. But we had over 1,000 students last year enter our school system.
Oh wow.
So we are without a doubt overcrowded, and this new charter school. Pardon me, I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. You want to answer it? You can talk to him. Is it going to be a business call? We can do it live right now,
Nobody ever
right here.
calls me on this phone, and of course, yeah.
No worries. Don't worry about
And
it. No big
so,
deal.
you know, we really need the room, and it would be so beneficial. So right now, there is the way that the bill has been written or the law. There's a two-step process in granting charters the funding to open, and the only person blocking that is Julie Kushner.
wow.
So we are just having a press release now with some of the delegation and
Why
some
is she
board
blocking? Why is she
members.
blocking? I mean, what's the purpose for her? What's her reason behind it?
Well, we are an alliance district now at this point because we've got so many people migrating in from either New York or second language learners. I myself, being Cuban and a second language learner, you know, I understand it. I'm looking at it from many different points of view, but there are so many students that come into our district that we need another school. So we need to fund what we currently have, right? Which we get alliance funds from the state to fund our public school. Well, there is a separate source of alliance funding that is provided to charter schools. So my opponent likes to make it seem like, well, how can we fund two schools if we can't even fund one? As if the alliance funds for the charter school have any bearing on what, we would typically fund our public school with. That is not the case. They're two separate streams of funding. The reason that she would not possibly, or the reason that I think that she does not want these schools, is because both of them are public schools. Both of them are nonprofit, but the Board of Education, in other words, the teachers' unions, do not have any oversight over a charter school.
So what it comes down to is that it comes down to that control and power of our elected officials. Michelle, I really want to. Now you're in Danbury, so would it be okay if Mark and you talk about me coming out to Danbury? I'm doing a live show, maybe at a coffee shop or someplace you can.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Mark, let's schedule that, okay?
Fantastic.
The Kevin Allen Show on the road, out to Danbury, Connecticut. I'd love to get out that way, and we'll take a walk around the community. Maybe you and I could. Let's make it warm though, not too below zero.
Let's make it warm. And you know what? There's so many more things. There's the accountability bill. I'm sure you know John Kropinski. He's here in Danbury, so I'm a huge advocate. Obviously, Julie Kushner wrote that bill.
Right. We got to figure out how Danbury has a Republican mayor and an administrator or representatives that are all Democrats, right?
They're all delegates or Democrats except for one who just Rachel Chalesky and actually Pat Callahan.
Well, why don't we get them on that show? If we do it live, you'll get them out to the event. That would be great.
Yeah.
Michelle, tell people where they can go and check you out.
Wonderful.
Where can people find you? Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
They can find me on Coelho for Senate at gmail.com.
Perfect. So thank you for coming on today. We appreciate it very much. And thank you for catching up. And let's set that up. Mark, you and Michelle, please talk offline. And I can't wait to come out to Danbury with you, give you the whole 2 hours. You can co-host with me. We'll talk about everything. And I'm excited about you running again because you will, right?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, I'm not going to ask another question. I'm going to leave it at yes. Yes is all we want here. Thank you so much.
All right,
Michelle.
Kevin. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day. There you go. One of the a senator who ran for office this year. And the reasons why, obviously, the mama bear position. She's very comfortable. Also, somewhat of a history understanding, I would assume, although Michelle and I have talked about it before, no sense to assume. She has said it. This government movement really scares somebody like Michelle, whose history coming from Cuba would certainly qualify the socialist movement that we seem to be fighting against. When we come back, Christopher Strom, my good friend, Brooklyn to Baghdad. Also, you can see him on Newsmax. And I know he's got some appointments, Chris. I'm going to get you in and out quick. I promise you. And I hope you have your clothes on today, because sometimes he sits in a suit and tie, but no pants on like the CNN guy. Back in a moment, right here on the Kevin Allen Show when we return. Let's welcome my guy, Chris. I feel like I want to give you an air hug. Can I give you an air hug, man? It's been a while. How you been, brother?
Brother, how are you?
It's been a while, man. I appreciate it. We get a text here and there to each other and try to catch up, but it's been too long. And the guys too. I want to go to another dinner, so let's get working on that. But Chris, how was the holiday season? And let's catch up. We'll talk about where we're going now with this cold weather out here in New England. But how was your holiday season?
Oh, it was fantastic. I finally got to see my daughter. She came in from Virginia Beach. That's where she lives now. And we had a really nice visit all together, just the four of us. Very quiet, very low key. Just a nice holiday season altogether.
Awesome. So, Chris, of course, you are the author of Brooklyn to Baghdad, and you've been a contributor on this show. And I'm going to fill everyone in if you're a new listener, first-time listener, watcher, whatever. What do they do here? Listen, watch? I don't even know what we do. But you came in and did an interview with me, and right away, you inspired me to actually think. I never thought next level. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, of course, whatever. But you're like, hey, man, you got to be doing this. And you gave me that calm sort of words of advice. And I've been, you were the guy. I'm being honest with you. So I appreciate you so much in this journey. And you've been a great partner. Now you're on Newsmax. Are you still contributing on some of the other networks?
No, just pretty much Newsmax. And it's very sporadic. And a lot of it really has to do with the news cycle, obviously. I was supposed to be on there the other day. And then the next thing you know, we're talking about this tragedy out in Tennessee. So, it fluctuates. It goes up and down, and I've come to expect it at this point in time, because that's just how it is. That's just the nature of the business. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this situation that took place. We did open up with some comments. Of course, I'm going to ask, obviously, you, a professional, how many years as a New York City officer and detective?
Over 20 years, and I retired as a sergeant out of the intelligence division, and I ran what they call the leads desk, the counterterrorism leads desk.
Which, when we've had so many, the interview, and Chris, was on that interview. Mark, if you can pull up the Chris Strom original interview, that'd be great if you want to post it right here and put that out so people can see that first interview or any of his interviews. He's great. Also, the interview, Mark, when we went down with Chris and the team down there, his partners from New York, we went down and had a restaurant interview, and it was great. But you also went to Brooklyn to Baghdad. The book's over your shoulder. You joined some armed services members over in Baghdad. Talk a little bit about that experience in your life.
Well, it was pretty amazing, and it's one of these things that I carry it with me every day. I'm still close to these people, but essentially, what had happened in Iraq, it went from a shooting war to an ID or improvised explosive device type of war, and the soldiers were getting killed primarily by roadside bombs and things of that nature. One of the things that people might be less familiar with is the fact that the bombs that were being used were very sophisticated, and they were being imported or shipped in directly from Iran. So now we not only had a counterinsurgency to deal with, but we had a state nation sponsor of terrorism that was actively involved in killing soldiers, and also as a part of the team's efforts in Iraq, not only did we dismantle some of these cells, but we also found high levels of corruption within the Iraqi government and the U.S. intelligence services themselves.
Chris, I want to ask you, because you were there, a lot of things that took place over there. Of course, you can read the book, Brooklyn to Baghdad. And where is that now on? It's been trending still consistently pretty high, right?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate and I'm very blessed. It fluctuates. It's an algorithm that's I have no control over. It's based solely on sales. And yesterday or the day before, it hit number 37. So not only is it in the top 100, but it's in the top 50 books of the Iraq War. So I'm very humbled and I'm very gratified. People like you, people that have spread the word, people that have reached out to me on social media, complete strangers, and said, "Hey, how do I get my book signed?" and things like that. So it's very humbling and it's very gratifying.
Well, you deserve it because you shared your journey, your heartfelt words were really concerning at times during the book when you read it, and also very inspiring. Your commitment to doing the right thing, obvious. When you look back on the Iraq War, these wars in general, right? We just came out of Afghanistan. We know we've had the Lieutenant Colonel Stewart on Schiller through your connection again. But when you look at how the military has been used in the world theater, as a law enforcement officer, someone that understands right versus wrong and enforcing laws, do you think we're off here in America when we're kind of butting into all these different places? You were in that situation, and a lot of criticism still exists today under the Cheney-Bush administration. Your thoughts, and also the FBI, CIA, and all that stuff during wars are used a lot more than people realize, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, my feelings first on the use of the military. It's really they're in a bad state. I think that law enforcement across the country is in a bad state, but I think the military is in a similar situation where there's really no leadership. We're talking about white supremacy in the military doesn't exist. We're talking about critical race theory, which is now mandatory in the military services, which is really further alienating and creating a wedge between the brothers and sisters that serve in blue in green and blue, because it's a red herring. It's not true. It's ruining morale, force readiness, which is really the main focus of the military, is to be ready and to be able to strike, at a moment's notice around the world. And that's been diminished severely because the leadership that is involved right now is political. It never really used to be that way. When I say it never used to really be that way, everybody wants to get ahead in life. I understand that there are politics that play at the very high staff level with generals and so forth and admirals. But it's at a point right now where these people are just and lemmings just following around. And Lloyd Austin is probably one of the worst people as the Secretary of Defense, followed by General Milley. I think they're tag teaming each other. Who can outdo each other to be the worst leader in the world? And the fact that the military is now being led by these people, then the foreign policy, when you combine the foreign policy about what's going on over in Ukraine, you sit there and you scratch your head and say, we're not here to win any wars. We're just just going to sit back on our heels and let things just, the chips fall where they may. But getting back to now your second question about the FBI, the CIA, and all the other intelligence services, they stick their finger into all these wars. They're all over it, and I'm just going to give you the broad brush. When you spend money for information, it doesn't necessarily equate to a good result, and that has been the bedrock foundation of the intelligence services. We no longer have really a robust clandestine service where there's human intelligence, real raw human intelligence and source operations being conducted, with the exception of the special forces community. So everything else is just being paid for, unvetted, and we just go along and print it as if it's gospel, and it's really, really hurting our intelligence services altogether. It really diminishes the actual effectiveness of the ground troops in theater.
It's interesting because obviously, as a law enforcement professional, New York City detective sergeant, going on and working in the federal government alongside as a contractor, partnered with those military members, men and women who served. You also have a unique sort of perspective when it comes to what is taking place right now in this country with Memphis, Tennessee, where these 5 officers, gang style, beat and killed a man on the streets. You and I are pro cops. Your thoughts as a police officer, A. B, how did we get here? And C, how do we fix it, Chris?
Well, it's tragic. When I say tragic, it's something that didn't have to happen. Again, I'm going to just say it straight out. It's as wrong can be. They deserve to be investigated and put on trial and let the chips fall where they may. But, when you watch what happened and you know that this could have been prevented. And when I say prevented, they've lowered the standard so much for Memphis. They've lowered the amount of leadership and oversight in Memphis. And I'm not just saying Memphis. I'm sure this is happening in other cities, but this is what we're talking about right here and now. This was an accident waiting to happen. Now, the actions of the person that they stopped, whether they stopped him legally or not, the actions of the police officers are clearly unjustified and criminal. It looks like it's going to be criminal. I'm going to wait to see what the courts say, see what the investigation says. But from what I'm watching and from what I'm reading, it's a criminal act what they did. In terms of recruitment and retention and police officers and training, let's keep in mind that this is a group of people, not the whole group of people. What they did was horrific, and everybody has acknowledged that. But again, now we're going back to a Democratic narrative where they're saying all cops are bad. There's systemic racism in the police department. Oh, wait, the victim was black, and the officers that did this were black, but that doesn't seem to matter. And they keep parroting this false narrative, and people are getting ginned up and excited and upset about what happened. And I understand that. But what they're doing is painting the whole police department nationally with a bad brush, and it's not fair, and it's wrong. It's very wrong.
It seems like there is that resurgence of, the feeling of the George Floyd era. Of course, when you see Ben Crump at the podium, when you see Al Sharpton at the podium, when you see the Obamas be the only representatives. In fact, I think Kamala Harris was the one out of the administration. They didn't invite Joe Biden, but they invited Kamala Harris. I feel like this is ramping up to the next 2.0 George Floyd extension. But the question is, that you just talked about, is how is there a defense of the weakening of the policies, of the procedures, and those qualifications? And yet we're getting that result. Isn't there a little bit of let's have an honest moment? Let's have a come to Jesus moment. It works for you folks. Why can't they at least be honest, you think, in this administration down in Nashville, or excuse me, in Tennessee, where they could at least say, hey, we shouldn't have weakened that. That would help the conversation across the country.
Yeah, I mean, they keep talking about, again, they're deflecting from what happened. These are 5 officers, and now I think they're including some of the EMS personnel as well, that clearly did something outrageous. There's no excusing it if it's actually true what they did. And again, I'm watching the video, so again, I'm one of these people. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon to beat these people up and convict them from a television set. But from what I'm seeing, it's terrible. But getting back to your question about the lowering of the standards, a lot of times people get arrested for a felony. This is nationally. This is not just happening in Memphis. And then what ends up happening is there's a plea bargain agreement, and they plead out to a misdemeanor. So now getting back to the recruitment process, if you don't have a felony conviction, which if they had proceeded with the trial, depending on who applies for this job, there would be a percentage that would be convicted, and they would not be eligible for that reason. but they're overlooking like the underlying factors. 85, 90% of all felony cases, depending on what it is, ranging from assaults and robberies to drug distribution and things like that, are being pled out to a misdemeanor. And so you're getting these people on the job. Now, going back to when I came on the job, and that's a long, long time ago in 1987, I mean, they went and actually door knocked. I'm talking about the people from application processing in the NYPD. You had to get letters from your employer. They interviewed people. They went to your school teachers. Did you get in trouble? I mean, these are all things that would be a nick and disqualify you potentially from getting hired. In fact, I'll share a quick story with you. A friend of mine who was going to college at the time before he became a police officer worked at a delicatessen, and the job was off the books. This is way back when. This is in the 80s, okay? That was not uncommon, especially if it was a summer job. Well, he had to hire an accountant to say what he would have had to pay and get cashier's checks to pay back the federal government, the state government, and the local government before they would even process him to be hired eventually in the NYPD. That's how strict it was. I doubt very seriously that's happening anymore. Again, I kind of get it, but it's two things are happening at the same time. They've lowered the standards nationally for most departments. Maybe some are not. And the people are leaving for better police departments. People are leaving to go to Florida. I'm on social media all the time. I see places like West Palm Beach. Now, if you like Florida, and I love Florida, they're offering a lateral transfer for an oncoming police officer with 5 years experience. I believe it's $63,000. And you're in Sunshine State where people actually like you, and the weather is phenomenal.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah.
That's the yin and the yang. People are leaving, and the recruitment and the people and the quality of people they're getting and the training that they're getting is horrible.
Well, it's definitely been watered down. Now, I just want to clarify for some of our listeners and our followers and our supporters and those that don't agree or disagree with some of the policies we might discuss here with each other is healthy. You do agree in second chances and third chances and that ability. There is processes in place for someone to recoup or recover from those situations. They can get parole, pardons. There's things for people to do. And we all know people like that. Why do you think this administration currently really didn't step up and say the facts here? What do you think this whole political move is right now? Because it seems like they haven't really gotten into this Memphis situation from the White House currently. And you know what's going on with the administration. You know how things are in disarray. But why do you think they're trying to avoid this topic right now?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're trying to avoid it. I think it's as you say, like George Floyd 2.0, unfortunately, okay? And they really should just be sticking to the facts. But again, I think getting to what I think you're kind of hinting at, I think there's so much going on in the White House in terms of the Biden administration with the documents and things like that. I think that, they're kind of preoccupied with that. I really, really do. I did see President Biden get on there and say, it's time for a national conversation about police training. And again, we're all for more training. We're all for having, the best trained and best equipped police officers. But one thing I want to point out to you, which I've been seeing, and it seems to be a trend, unfortunately, Kevin, when a confrontation happens with the police, and primarily it's a traffic stop or it could be a domestic dispute, whatever the situation is. But primarily, most of the encounters are from traffic stops, if you look at the history of it. The tactics that are being employed, if you look at what's being done, the first thing they go for is the mace. There's really no attempt to grapple with this person, try to get physical control over this person. I can remember going to Marine Corps boot camp. I can remember going to the NYPD, and we took classes on self-defense and how to gain positive control over a subject, but without hurting him, without having to punch him, without having to kick him. Basically, almost like a judo or a wrestling type of maneuver, so that you get the person. When I see five guys the size of these five officers, and I look at the victim, Tyree Nichols, and he looks like he's about 150, 160 pounds, soaking wet. How is it that these guys could not just put him on the ground, and one guy grab one arm, one guy grab another arm, and put a handcuff on and be done with it? It should have been over within a minute.
Because clearly they were punks, and at the end of the day, you can see the actions of those.
And so now we're going to Mace. He's not complying. We're going to the asp or the folding, extending baton. We're hitting him, we're kicking him, we're punching him. I mean, like, at what point does one of the five, and this is kind of like what happened, unfortunately, with George Floyd, does one of them say, all right, enough, put him on the ground, cuff him up, put him in the car, let's go. Like, I don't know what happened there. I wasn't there. I'm not excusing it. Obviously, I want to make that clear too. But my point is, in this conversation, why are they not just using some type of physical restraint and less than what we call less than lethal? Instead, they're using a force continuum that immediately goes to mace, which I didn't see any verbal communication where they really tried to, like, come on, man, just turn around. You got to come with us or whatever. I don't see any of that, any de-escalation. I see mace, baton, kicking, and punching. That's what I saw.
Now, when you were serving in New York City as a detective and a sergeant, and you had people under your charge, of course, and you worked side by side with officers your career, how did you handle those people that maybe, had some questionable behavior? Maybe you could see some of these, kind of, cowboy activity with the hat on, right? I'm saying that, but these kind of road guys that are on the street, and you've seen them in your career, I'm sure. How did you handle that?
Well, essentially what happens is, there's a whole process, just like with any police department. There's accountability. They call it, in most police departments, they call it professional standards. We have a civilian complaint review board in New York City, so they investigate complaints if it's self-generated by the person that had the interaction with the police officer, whether he's a criminal suspect or just somebody that was stopped from a traffic stop. So there is a very robust process in terms of oversight within the NYPD. And believe it or not, we always had this joke with the NYPD. In the beginning, it was probably the easiest job to get. In other words, you take a test and barring anything in your background, you got the job. But it was also the hardest job to keep because you didn't have to do much to get fired. And I think that really sent a message. And when I was in the latter part of my career, and Commissioner Kelly was the police commissioner, you would read what we call the orders. It would come down on a teletype message, and you would see all the people and the charges and specs that they got. And then at the very end, you would see all the people that got fired. And every month, we probably had 25 people that got fired. So, again, there's 30,000 plus people in the NYPD, but I don't know what's going on in other police departments, but in terms of discipline and maintaining discipline, that was one aspect. Clearly, as a frontline supervisor, if somebody was acting in that way, you'd have to write him up. You'd have to report him, especially if it was a force complaint. You just couldn't sweep that under the rug. Now, is that going on today? I'd say it probably still goes on, but I also think, going back to what I was saying earlier, I don't think too many cops, whether it's in New York City, Memphis, or otherwise, are being that physical with people that they interact with anymore. I think it's more of a reactive type of policing, depending where you are nationally. Florida and Texas and maybe South Carolina and some other red states are probably an exception, that they're probably still very proactive. But like places like New York, Baltimore, Chicago, I think the cops are basically parked in their car, listening to the radio and responding to calls for service. That's my personal.
I'm going to throw it out here. I was out in LA. I'm heading out to California on Sunday, and I was out there a week or two ago, and I don't think I saw one law enforcement officer downtown in LA when I was there. Not one time. Not one time.
I'm not surprised.
I was like, what? But what I did see was homelessness, mental health, tragic situations where people walking the streets, a community that's in totally destroyed, no economic, vibrance there. So it's got an effect on everything, right? That the quality of life that affects the community you worked in. Let me kind of shift over to New York, if you don't mind, because I don't get much time with you, so I want to tap on every topic. Our favorite mayor of New York certainly isn't the mayor currently, but certainly has got the ear and the eyes of national media. And of course, I'm talking about Mayor Eric Adams, who's been also very vocal about the immigration issues and really kind of disqualifying law enforcement as a priority in his administration. Clearly, your reaction to New York and the condition of New York City under this current mayor.
Well, he was actually on the news not too long ago, a day or so ago, basically beating up on the police, and he was nodding in agreement that there's a systemic racism problem within the NYPD. I mean, this guy is talking out of both sides of his head, and it's really not. And it's really, to say something like that, Kevin, is really just outrageous, and he's just pandering to a base because he really has nobody left in the city.
Are you talking about my cracker? My white boy
Yeah,
cracker.
I'm talking about Mayor Adams. He basically turned around.
No, but he likes to call white boy crackers, right?
He's on video. I was saying that before. Yeah, but again, on a serious note, he basically said that there's a problem. Excuse me, within the NYPD in terms of racism and excessive force and all these other things. And again, he's got a brand new police commissioner. And if that was the case, why is he waiting until now to say it? Again, he's an opportunist. He's a guy that's deflecting from all the problems that are really going on in New York City, crime being number one, homeless being number two. And then we just recently had the situation, excuse me, where we had the people that were migrants that didn't want to leave a hotel on the Upper West Side. So he's got his own set of issues going on there.
Well, I don't want to leave the Upper East Side. If I'm getting a nice hotel, I come into the country and get taken care of like that. I'm thinking about actually flying down to Mexico and coming across the border and maybe get a vacation in New York City on the taxpayers' dime. What's next for you? You writing any books? What's your 2023 looking like for Chris Strom?
Well, I've been really pushing hard to try and get some exposure for the book. I'm in conversations with Michelle, as you know. I was recently in New York City with another friend of mine who's a producer. So we're trying to get some traction with the book, and we're trying to get some exposure. And just say a prayer. Hopefully, something positive is going to happen with that in terms of the next step forward with it.
Well, again, when I was out in LA, you might know or not, but I don't know how much you talked to Michelle, but I was supposed to have lunch with her. We couldn't work out our schedules, but hopefully maybe this week we'll be able to pop in for a coffee and say hi to her as well. Michelle, of course, we're talking about she helped out on the Patriot Day project, right? With the movie with Mark Wahlberg, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. She was
Michelle McPhee, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was also the technical advisor for City on the Hill with Kevin Bacon.
There you go. That's
she's pretty prolific. So
yeah, she's got a really amazing career. Of course, her being a writer and all that stuff, that background. So, Chris, I appreciate you coming on. I definitely owe you a private call just to catch up with you, and I appreciate all you do to contribute to this show, and also anything we can do to help you. Folks, go out and check out Brooklyn to Baghdad. Mark, can you please put that right into the comments? Thank you. Already done. Now we got a producer, Chris. What do you think? We're moving along, right?
You've come a long way, my friend.
Well, let me
Congratulations.
Paula has always been the producer. We just brought in the assistant producer, Mark, to the show.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks, Chris, so much. Appreciate you very much. Back in a moment. Got a couple more guests coming on. And, of course, we always excited when Raven Harrison from Texas gets a chance to pop in with us. We'll talk to her. Also, I think Joe Visconti from Connecticut. Back in a moment on The Kevin Allen Show.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read The Difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
And welcome back to the Kevin Allen Show. We are live right here at Joey Guns, right in Route 12 in Plainfield, Connecticut. Come on down, Joey Guns LLC. Check them out online. They actually give a free shirt away to somebody that comes in and says, "Hey, we heard you. We stopped down today to Joey Guns. We'll give you a free shirt, Joey Gun shirt." And also they have free wieners if you want to grab a hot wiener. Because on a cold day, there's nothing better in your hand than a hot wiener, right? What time the hot wiener is going to be ready? Soon? 12? 11:40. We'll have some hot wieners for your hands to grab. And speaking of hot wieners, we got a hot wiener coming on right now. It's Joe Visconti from Connecticut. He always delivers. What's going on, Joe?
Freezing my butt off like you are. What the hell's going on? It's winter. It's winter.
This is crazy, my brother. So we are here at Joey Guns. This is where they held the event at K&H for Marjorie Taylor Greene about a year, 2 years ago. And, of course, we stirred the pot in Connecticut then. Of course, I think they got some future events planned with Quinnebog Citizens Alliance Group. But, Joe, you're a guy that has a past history of being willing to step up to the podium and say it like it is. I want to hear your thoughts on the crazy in the world today from Joe Visconti on the Friday show. Kevin Allen, from you.
Starting right now, the Governor Lamont here in Connecticut wants to take our right to carry open carry away and a bunch of other draconian laws. Like, hopefully they will be challenged by either CCDL or some other great citizens that are out there. It's just every time we turn around and want to grab our guns, they say, no. And it's just it's a never ending battle. So all you 2A supporters, please stay tuned to what's going on with that. It'll be coming up in session at the state capitol to be voted on later in the session, probably a month or so from now. But again, that's the thing to watch. The other thing is, what about Montana? Hey, how about them balloons?
What's going on with that, Joe? What is the deal? You must be up on that. With this balloon, Biden doesn't want to shoot it down, right? He wants to let it just float around and get all the.
Yeah, he wants to shoot it down, but they're not going to let him shoot it down. God knows if they put any uranium in there or low level. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Or low level radiation from X-ray machines. Who knows what? So you hit that thing with a rocket from.
All right, we're all wondering who's Mike, because Mike is much more interesting looking than you.
That's my son Michael. Yeah, Mike. He's Mike. You. Oh yeah, the beard, the whole bit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What? How tall is he? Is he a tall guy?
He's 6'4". He's my youngest son, and he's 29. He'll be 30 this year.
Oh wow, we're gonna have to get him signed up for security. He's got the look, Joe.
He's the bar manager at North House in Avon, Connecticut. The old Avon Old Farms Inn, where George Washington actually visited way back. But anyway, so we've got uranium possibly getting blown out of the sky in a balloon to pollute the Yellowstone, and Kevin Costner won't be able to film any more seasons there.
Yeah. It's insane.
It's another one. I mean, it's bizarre. It's just bizarre. Are they looking for a war? Is everybody looking for a nuclear war?
Do you think that's a distraction? Obviously, that is, the bouncing ball. I always refer back to it, the wag the dog theory of what's going on with politics. You always see that movie as a reference of how it's played.
Contrary to popular belief, China's petrified of our deep state. And we make it look like China's so strong and we're so weak. That's complete opposite. We are so strong. We just need bad actors, and we build them up with our propaganda. And we've got them surrounded. And China can't make a move. She's really boxed in with food, with water, with energy. Between China and Russia, they're really on the downside, and we're provoking them. I don't care what anybody says; it's us that's provoking them. And that's
interesting. But I mean, you're not, and I'm going to qualify. You're not defending China. You're just saying in this.
Of course not. No. Of course, they're our arch enemies. But when you look at somebody who's incompetent, not able to do something, same thing with Ukraine and Russia. And listen, the bottom line is, if they can get us into a hot war, whoever they is, they'll do it. They're throwing everything at us right now in this country, and 2024 is going to be. I just think it's going to be a great year for the Republican Party, and because people have had it. I mean, we can keep talking from Connecticut, but America is not Connecticut. We're just behind enemy lines. You know what we've been fighting them politically behind enemy lines, and We have to keep doing what we're doing over here in the Constitution state, but America is
the Constitution state, and obviously we see the Constitution always being tested across this country. Of course, here in Connecticut, no exception. You talked about the gun rights that are overreaching by the government movement, children being vaccinated or choosing to be vaccinated at 12 years old without parental, rights or approval. It's just an insane world that we live in today. But Joe, Connecticut, the nation, but Donald Trump. You worked hard in the campaign. Yeah. Your thoughts about 2024?
Well, two of my best friends that I worked the campaign with back in 2016, Boris, Boris Epstein. He's the one of Trump's senior advisors. You'll catch him on a lot of Bannon's show all the time. Boris and I communicate. I've had him on my shows, and we should get him on your show, Kevin. And also Steve Stepanek. Steve was the chairman for the Trump campaign in 2016, who became the Republican Party chairman until last week. Trump talked about him. He's become the senior policy advisor. So two good friends stayed in their houses. We've been on the trail forever. So we're watching what's going to happen with the new team. It's a lot of the old veterans. And some of them are gone. This is the big thing. They've either indicted or chased away or deplatformed, doxxed, and attacked so many Trump people. So there's a rebuilding going on now of the I would call it a very slim, sleek, a bunch of advisors that are loyal. I guess that's the key word we're looking for. Loyal and politically bulletproof. They're not going to go down with it. Trump is organizing that now. And I just hope DeSantis just is out there grabbing cash. I hope Nikki Haley doesn't jump in and try to make the best of it. But I think it's so right for him. And the polls are way up for him. And we're watching the planned destruction of America. And they're saying it and they're doing it. There's nothing hidden. There's no, secret messages. Biden, Democrats, saying it all. And I just think right now, country, it's cold. People are paying for electric heat. They're paying for Christmas still. They don't know what's going to come the next month or two with coming out of spring with energy prices, mortgage rates are through the roof. You name it. Everything is coming out of America.
Geez, Joe, I feel like I'm going to go jump off a bridge after that one. Joe Visconti from Connecticut. Let's turn it around. Let's close out with something positive here as we get ready to bring on Raven Harrison from Texas. But Joe, give me some optimism about America and Connecticut today from you.
I think the general public is seeing it all, and they're having a hard time taking vaccinations when they didn't want to, and they did, and they didn't trust, and now they're looking at what they did. So there's this whole coming to terms of, why, I married that person? I live with that person? The whole thing you go through after a divorce or breakup. America's going through that. And she had a chance last year to really cut it off and have no contact with the Democrat Party. One of those restraining orders. But that didn't happen. And I think this coming year, this municipal year, is where all your local level elections are going to occur. And the public is going to come out of the woodwork and say enough is enough at the local level. And it's going to be fine. This country will always recorrect itself. Like I was in Manhattan 2 days ago. Took a Ryder truck to Manhattan to move some office furniture I bought in Midtown. We get in that place. That place is a war zone. It's insane. And New York was like that in the 70s. I'm old enough to remember when you couldn't go there. But it'll bring back. Giuliani brought it back. It will always come back. We're just in that cycle, that part of the cycle that doesn't want to go away. Americans just want to. They want to keep, a lot of them want to keep sticking with a party rather than with their country. You got to stick with the country, not a party system.
There's a good point right there. Joe Visconti. So I know you and Mark need to work on the date when we're actually, Mark, we've been talking to Joe. Let's get up there and do that live from your office and right there over the top of the Democratic State Central Committee, right? Is that what the office below your building?
Bloomingdale's right above us, yeah.
Oh, Bloomingdale. So we're going to go out there and probably in 2 or 3 weeks, maybe beginning of March, maybe we should go out for St. Patty's Day. That might be a fun event with you, actually, Joe.
Yeah, we've got a balcony. I got a 50-foot balcony overlooking the old State House.
Let's throw a St. Patty's Day gig at your place. Let's do it.
Yes, let's get a conservative get-together.
All right, we're going to do it. Joe Visconti, right. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for coming on. Yeah, appreciate it very much. There you go. Check out Joe Visconti and Mark. Put him, if you could, any contact information for Joe right into the comments as we get ready to bring on our gal. Is it all right to say my girl? Is that legal? Is that okay today in the world? She is my girl. Raven Harrison, back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. And I want to welcome you back. Really good interviews right with Michelle in the beginning, had Chris Strom and then Joe Visconti. But you can't have a Friday, not on this show, the Kevin Allen Show, without my girl, Raven Harrison from Texas. How you doing, Raven?
Hey, how's my Connecticut cowboy?
I'm doing well today. It's cold as heck up here. It's
Same.
I don't know. It's negative degrees. It's I can't wait to fly out Sunday to the West Coast. I have to admit that I don't want to go to the West Coast, but I am excited about getting warm. How is it down in Texas? Is it cold down there?
It is cold. We had an ice storm and they shut the city down. We have been closed for business most of the week, but you know, us fire breathers always make it work.
You can melt that ice anytime down there. You know, what's crazy is just a bit of history is when I was doing an interview with Alex Jones, the first time I did an interview, it was the ice storm probably about 4 years ago that closed down Texas. And It was on a Sunday afternoon. I remember distinctly that he got in the studio. He's like, "We don't get this down here. This is never like this." And
That's right.
I was sliding over the road, and I'm like, "Oh man, you know what? But when you guys do get this weather, everyone must freak out in Texas. Am I right?"
They do. I mean, it was a skating rink. We were on holiday for my husband's birthday. We came back from Oklahoma. It was absolutely skating rink and accident palooza. So we need to the people who should be slowing down wouldn't, and the people who shouldn't have been out on the roads were.
That's crazy, right? Who knows? But, you know, so weather is what weather is. Of course, we have weather balloons that are being disguised as that. Chinese weather balloons floating around. What are they doing in America over our country? We also have the craziness of what happened down there in Memphis, Tennessee, with the 5 police officers killing a unarmed victim. And your thoughts first on that as we move forward in the nation.
That it's horrific. What I want to do is make sure I'm condemning the action and not the people. I've gotten a lot of requests for comments on this, and my comment is it is horrific. Nothing upsets good cops better than bad cops. So I just won't, demoralize the ones who are out there getting it right. But this is not okay. It's not even close to okay. This has to be dealt with. But I want to make sure that we keep the blame right where it belongs, which is on these 5 officers and those who act like that. We have to weed those out. It gives law enforcement a bad name. I'm a big back the blue person, a big backer of law enforcement and law and order, but this is not what we're seeing here. This is rogue, runaway, and if it's not an isolated incident, then we have a bigger problem that needs to be addressed.
So one of the things that is being talked about a lot is the really the watering down of the qualifications. And of course, this is, the funeral was yesterday. We saw Al Sharpton. We saw Ben Crump. We saw the Obamas. And I want to talk to Michelle Obama in a minute. I have some thoughts on that. But this watering down of law enforcement is really looking like this is the issue. Felonies, unqualified people getting into the police work. How can we get a little more vocal and identify this so people can start understanding how much damage after George Floyd, and I call this Floyd 2.0, and I hate to compare, these are tragedies, but I believe this is actually going to defend the Democrats. They're going to feel more emboldened by this, but really, they caused the problem, didn't they?
They did cause the problem. They have been setting this up for quite some time. This is not the first. This is the symptom, okay? The fire is not the cause. It is the result, and that's what we're seeing right now. Defund the police. You tie law enforcement's hands, you don't allow them to do their job, you villainize them for doing their job to the point where police officers aren't sure. Now they have to hesitate, which is something we don't want them to do. We want them to act. We want them to do what they were trained to do. And the Democrats have been systematically and for decades trying to unravel the law and order that has been coming. They've been releasing criminals during the BLM riots all over the summer. They bailed these people out. They've let them out. They have gone to this coddling of criminals thing. And now we're victims. Oh my goodness. These are rogue cops, the same ones that they're asking to protect them, private security that they have, so they don't fear what they have released on everybody else. But this is absolutely the Democrats, any one of these Democrats screaming anything about law enforcement after they were trying to send in social workers to deal with these kind of situations. How does that feel for our good cops, who are out there, with less money, less resources, no support, the government scapegoating them? This is the result.
100%. It is a obvious tragedy, and one that was being created, I think, to divide even further. So I talked about Michelle Obama, and I'm going to get right into it. Politically speaking, I believe I'm going to give my advice, or I'll be out in Vegas actually this week, so maybe I'll make this bet. Finally, been talking about doing it. I believe Michelle Obama will be running as the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in 2024. First, your thoughts on that?
I believe there'll be some combination of Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom thrown in. The Democrat Party is just strictly all about first. They are all about virtue signaling. They are not about qualifications. So if we're going to dip into the pool of completely unqualified people, that would be the top of their list, is somebody who has no expertise really in anything that we can tell. We don't really know what she's an expert in because we're not allowed to see her records. There's all kind of.
Well, she's an expert in telling Barack what to do. I think that's clearly the case right here. I mean, she seems to be the backbone to that relationship. But
she seems to be very proficient in being married to him. I'm going to save all of my jokes for that, but that's pretty much all that makes her an expert in.
Right,
just
exactly.
Like him being of color, the only thing that he's really, that's the only qualification, is he needs less sunscreen than the rest of us. That's the left's favorite thing, is we have to have the first of everything. It has to be a first. Whether they're qualified makes no difference. It just has to be a first of something. First female, first lesbian, first gay, solar powered, purple, alien to do. This is just all they care about now, is whatever they can get in.
Less sunscreen than us. Did you just make that up on the fly?
No, I've said that before. That's not a qualification. It just,
not at all.
It's an element.
It is, and I think one of the greatest ways of approaching this is to actually try to have those open conversations. Let me ask you what you're doing on that front. You clearly ran for office for Congress. You had to get through that Republican, pipeline that obviously we know is corrupted as well. But how do you deal with the people who disagree with some of the policies you have? Because I know you're not afraid of that. How do you go out there and communicate? You're doing your show. Are you making those efforts, or are you just staying away from that conversation?
I will have it anytime, any place. And what we are doing now is we're changing the script. So I don't have this title, but that doesn't mean there's not good to be done. And you still have to listen. We are not, should I make it to Congress one day, I'm not the congresswoman for this segment and not this. It's for everybody. And that requires your ability to be able to listen and to hear and to try to work towards something that's mutually beneficial. What I tell people all the time, which is what I thoroughly believe, I am fighting for your right to disagree with me, because very few people that I talk to have lived under the communism that I'm fighting against. I have lived in it. I lived in Germany with my parents who were military. We fought communism all the time. I lived in the areas that had these supply chain shortages, where people were told what to do, what to put in their body, who was allowed to be healed for the socialized health. And it is not what people think it is. So I tell them quite blatantly, I am fighting for your right to disagree with me, because there is no disagreeing and no dissension in communism. You don't get to outwardly attack your leaders when they are forcibly injecting you, or they are, killing people at gunpoint. People should be looking at what happened with China when the first round of the pandemic came out, and they were welding people into their houses, and people were being, forcibly and mistreated and abused, and nobody wants to talk about that anymore. That's what happens. An armed population cannot become prey. And people will ask me, well, what can the government do when they get rid of all your guns? The answer is whatever they want. And we're seeing that. That's why there's such an onus on getting rid of the guns. And you see, I'm dressed up.
I know you did. You were. Well, I got to get you up here to Joey Guns. We're going to get you up here to, this is a location we actually had Marjorie Taylor Greene's event at.
Yes.
The Quinnebog Citizen Alliance groups. When we get scheduled some events, I'm going to let you know. I would love to have you come up from Texas, speak and get to know the people. It'd be a great opportunity. There's not many of us in Connecticut, so we have to stick and band together. Guns. You bring up guns. Let's talk about that. We know right now across this country there's such a movement at the Obama administration, right on down, to really make criminals out of legal gun owners. How do you see that affecting the 2024 election as far as the gun debate?
It's going to be an ongoing debate, because that's the Democrats' play. That is the last thing that is between them and full control and communism, because you cannot, an armed population will not voluntarily load themselves into rail cars or send themselves to the gas chamber. The proof is unequivocal, and it's been throughout history. Look at any other country. Even if you look at Karl Marx, he was considered the father of Marxism and socialism, who died in exile in London in capitalism. Okay, he could not live under the model he wanted to live, because eventually the socialist model, you run out of people's money. So this is why the left will always, always, always preach about gun control. That is in the Second Amendment. It's not even a discussion they are allowed to have. They don't get to cherry pick which one of the rights they want us to have and why. I get the question a lot of, well, what do you need an AR-15 for? I don't have to defend that to anybody. It is absolute. It means whatever I want it for. Deer hunting, liberating a country. It was put in place to prevent the government from doing exactly what it's doing right now. So I don't have to defend to other people. That is your right. You choose not to have one. That is your choice. You choose to live somewhere that has stricter gun laws. That is your choice. My choice is I don't have to defend my rights to you. Okay, those were already defended in the Constitution. So I tell people, but one thing I want to pick out, Kevin, that I always want to remind people, okay, if the people who are espousing gun control, any kind of gun control, this but not this, well, just a little bit, and then we'll see, are any of those hypocrites, okay, being protected by guns? I don't care if they're ARs, they're pistols, they're Glocks, the bullets still come out really fast. Okay, so if these people, and Pelosi, Biden, Obama, all of these people who are saying beta, I should say, gun control, are all protected by guns, which means they put a higher value on their lives than they do yours. And the mindless zombies will just get behind them and go, oh, they're right. He's way more important than I am. We should definitely let him be protected, because the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And there are no examples of a gun-free zone sign, okay, working in any circumstance. The rash of violence you see, Kevin, has nothing to do, because no gun without an owner or somebody pulling the trigger has ever murdered anybody. So this is a tribute to criminals that have been let out of the prisons, the soft on crime, and them letting our border flood in with people that they're not vetting, they're not screening, and they're not holding to any kind of liability, but they want the law-abiding people to give up their guns when they have demonstrated they won't protect us. They won't enforce the laws. They won't protect it, and they're protected by those guns. They are protected by those guns, the same guns.
It's a hypocritical move, and we know that. We see it. We just got to be louder and boisterous and expose the liars for who they are. Now, lies at the southern border. Joe Biden was down there, 2-3 weeks ago. What did you get from the people? You were down there. We tried to work out an arrangement. I know we still are. We're going to be there. God's moving that. But one of the things I want to ask you is they went down and swept that area right clean for Joe Biden. Talk a little bit about that, because the American people didn't see the behind the scenes.
The American people didn't see. If they want to, you got to go to the episode I posted right before Joe Biden's visit on Raven's Radar. We showed what the city, what El Paso looked like 2 days before Joe Biden's visit. It was knee deep in tent cities. It was wall to wall on the cities. It was full of trash and feces. And we went down there, and he had that. They whitewashed the city. They emptied the processing facility. They moved and scurried the migrants around different parts of the country. They cleaned it up like you would not believe. And it was a complete gut punch to the people of El Paso. They were counting on Joe Biden seeing firsthand the catastrophic effects of his policy. And two years and $20 billion later, he pretended to go there for a few minutes, saw nothing, because the Democratic elected leaders in El Paso all used the money. Now, remember, a couple weeks before, they had asked for emergency funds, saying this was a crisis. We had 1,000 come through in a day, unsustainable. We need help. And then they used that money to whitewash the city and clean it up and just go, yeah, nothing to see here. Thanks for coming out. It was absolutely horrific. And then 2 days after, it's back. I've been speaking to some friends I have who work for the Border Patrol down there, and it is back to the same dumpster fire that it was before. It is, again, wall-to-wall trash, tent cities everywhere, migrants camped out at every corner, sleeping on the streets, trash that is knee-high. They're back to, spiking crime where people don't want to go out, even in the daytime. So anybody can check out the Ravens Radar podcast, and we have a video of what it looked like 2 days before, the day of his visit, and 2 days after, so people can see the absolute gaslighting that went on of the Democrats of saying, yeah, no big real problem. And he hopped down to Mexico to make a deal with Mexico to, instead of enforcing the Remain in Mexico policy, to accept 30,000 more through ports of entry. And now he's going to stand up in the State of the Union and say, well, the numbers are going down. No, what he's decided to do is funnel them through the ports of entry and do nothing about the ones who are still coming across illegally.
How much are you being told from your contacts, your resources down there at the southern border about the invasion of not Mexican, not those of Latino descent, or through that connected country, but actually European, Middle Eastern, all these other people, and they're catching these people now. Right now, they're identified at least one or two over the last couple of weeks. It's been trending that we're actually on the terror watch list. How scary is that?
Well, those are the ones that we catch. And to answer your question, and for the trolls that are on there, is I'm getting videos every day from El Paso to see what it looks like, not just in the area around the processing center, but in the areas out in the outliers of the city. Because remember, this is Beto's hometown, to look to see what it's looking like. And that's the problem. So here's the things that they're not showing you on the news, which is buses that are pulling up from the Mexico side, pulling up to remote areas outside the city and to the desert, and dropping off bus loads of illegals that are then hopping an unmarked bus that is on our side, of the border, and then just transporting them somewhere to the interior of our country. That has been happening for months under Biden. So the ones that are sneaking in, we've caught some that are on the terror watch list. We've caught none. These are, actual Border Patrol agents and their families who have a coalition who are trying to get awareness to this. And we have the trolls and the Democrats out there like usual. The border is closed. They don't go down there. They don't live there. They don't know anything about what they're talking about except for CNN. And then CNN told them it was closed. But the end result is we are all less safe. I made a comment that people should be very careful when they travel abroad, because now kidnappings are going to spike, harming Americans are going to spike. And that is what's been happening. And the numbers don't lie. But the news media does.
Certainly does. And I apologize. Some people are saying they're having a hard time hearing. It's we're in an open professional business here at Joey Guns LLC right up here in Plainfield, Connecticut. Sorry about that with the background noise. But the interview is great. So with you, what I'd like to say is, first and foremost, is I met you probably about a year ago in February, if I recall correctly, and a lot has happened in your career and your path. You do have your own show. Let's talk about that. Where are you at with that show? What's going on? Where can we see it? I know when, but let's tell the people so we put in the links. What's going on with Ravens Radar?
Well, Ravens Radar comes out on Thursdays. It's available on all podcast platforms, Apple, Rumble, Spotify. And the essence of it is this, is we want to do more about action. People get on TV all the time and say, this is what's wrong. The sky is falling, and they don't tell people what to do about it. And I really want to do better about not only addressing what the problems are, but trying to address the resources and how we're going to solve them. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So we've had people from the front line. We had Joseph McBride on there, who was handling the case for a lot of the J6ers who are still being held without being formally charged, who've been in prison for years. One of them has celiac. He's about to die. And we're trying to fight for justice. But he's giving you, this is what's happened in the court. Here's the footage. Here's what we know. And here's what we need from everybody. So verbs in our sentences, actual solutions, instead of getting up on the soapbox and just going, this is what it is. I had 3-star Lieutenant General Funk on the podcast in store for what does military action mean? Because you have a lot of people who are going, well, we might be close to a revolution. We're close to civil war. They don't even know what that means. What is our military readiness? What is their involvement? What is their role in what's going to happen in all this unrest? So we're bringing in that case, it actually really was a frontline general. We're bringing real frontline generals in the conservative movement telling us what the problem is and how we're going to solve it, and more importantly, what each one of us can do to be part of that solution, because each one of us has a role in taking our country back. We each do.
It's interesting. You're referring to the military piece of some of the folks you're interviewing, and
Yes.
some of that really has a major impact. General Bolduc, who ran for office here in New Hampshire, of course, we had the pleasure to meeting Stuart Schiller, who actually was lieutenant colonel in the Marines. Do you think it's going to take those people to be even bigger organizers on the ground to take back America?
Yes, and it's going to require a little bit of humbling. I mean, I grew up with military parents, and I've always appreciated their sacrifice. It's amazing what our men and women in uniform and law enforcement do for us every single day. Most of the time, we don't even get to see the evil they're fighting because they've done their job that well. So I wanted kudos, but it's also humbling ourselves and understanding and acknowledging that our generation is not the same as the generation that came before us. We have a responsibility to hand a country to our next generation that is as good or better than the one that we were left. And we are not doing that. We are poorly failing our next generation at that. So it is incumbent upon us to humble ourselves and talk to these people who really did actively fight communism, fight the evil. It's just that we were used to it being abroad, not domestically. So of just getting these people involved. It doesn't mean they have to pick up arms against it, but tell us how to wage this fight. Get us in the right mindset of what we need to do, to inspire this. And I'm very humbled. I mean, I would take Lieutenant General Funk, and his son is a 4-star general. He's a 3-star general. His son is a 4-star general. I would take both of them with almost against everybody I almost meet in this day and age, for whatever battle.
Well, they fought for our country. They know exactly what it is. And as you say, growing up in a military family yourself, Raven, you share that story, you're part of your journey, makes for a discipline and a love for our country from that patriotism. Raven Harrison, you are going to be on Thursdays. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? Mark will put the link right here and all the bio and stuff right in the comments section. But tell everyone again where they can check you out.
Well, I appreciate that. So, Patriots, if you're wanting to know, we've got kind of a hectic coming up, but you can reach me at ravenharrison.com. That's our website. We usually have been giving out links on where to find the book and how to do it. If you want to catch up with me on social media, it's Raven, the Conservative Warrior, on all platforms, and Raven's Radar is on all platforms. It has its own social media presence, and it has, links to the shows, all the ones we've done so far, all of the guests. So if you're looking for a specific topic, you can tune in, and we welcome your feedback. We really do. What you want to see, what you want us to be fighting harder for, and what you want us to amplify in your voice.
Perfect. Thank you, Raven, so much. I will talk to you soon. Raven Harrison from Texas. Go and check her out. She's going places. There you go. We'll be back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. We'll wrap up the Friday edition, and we are live right down here in Plainfield, Connecticut. Joey Guns LLC, one of our sponsors on the Kevin Allen Show. Back in a moment.
Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs, destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Janine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read The Difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
And welcome back right here, the Friday edition, live edition of the Kevin Allen Show on the road right here at Joey Guns LLC in Plainfield, Connecticut. Of course, Joey Guns is sponsor. And it's crazy because we were out at SHOT Show as well as Joe and his wife, and we couldn't find each other out there. It took me coming back to Connecticut to have to do a live pop-up to say hi to these guys. But great event out there. We'll get Joey or maybe his wife on before we end it. If not, the next time we come here to do a live, we'll do that. If you're in the area of Connecticut, maybe on the Mass border, Rhode Island, or wherever you are, come on down today. It's in Route 12. Mark, if you can post the address, actually, or the link to their website, that'd be great for us. Of course, we'll go to Mark before we close out, our producer, and kind of recap what took place this week on the Kevin Allen Show and talk about what's going to be on next week and the week after. We talked about Clay Clark coming on and General Flynn and some of the other folks that we're going to be scheduling. But there's a lot more than just that. You know, I'll talk a lot about like those people, the celebrity style people, but more importantly, it's you. The people that we talk to every day that make the most difference in the communities that we're fighting to protect, the ones that we want to represent. And we talked a lot with Michelle earlier on in the show, of course, from Danbury, Connecticut, running for Senate, Michelle Coelho, who ran for the 24th Senate position. And her reason why, being a Board of Ed member, being a mom who actually was impassioned by the overreaching, push of mandates, especially when it came to the COVID. And so many moms and dads and people on the sidelines over the last few years have gotten up and started to get active and involved. And that's what it takes, actually. The frustration pushes you, or the attacks on your children, your freedoms. And as I sit right here in this gun shop right here in Plainfield, Connecticut, I get to look over to our social media platform every now and then, and I see Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy, the clown from Connecticut, the senator who thinks his words really matter. Chris Murphy, who's made a career on the tragedy of Sandy Hook and the young people that were killed there. He has a business card he walks around this country with, trying to promote an anti-gun 2A movement. And of course, assault weapons bans work. Pass it on. And he posted that about an hour ago. And of course, I do what I do is I posted, I'm over here at Joey's Guns. Why don't you come on down for a live interview, Chris Murphy? Of course, we won't ever see Chris Murphy come to these parts unless it's on a controlled walkthrough, as he loves to do in Connecticut, as he marches through Connecticut, spewing his stories about all the great ice cream and the great communities of Connecticut. Well, you don't come out to the real people of Connecticut, Chris, because all you're about is trying to promote a divide in this country. And I won't take it anymore. When it comes to fighting against those who want to take freedoms away, such as your 2A freedom, such as your freedom of speech, such as your freedom to actually choose what is, how things are affecting your children. Exactly what Michelle talked about was why she was inspired, because the overreaching of government was pushing mandates on the children. Once again, in Connecticut, like we see across this country, we see a bill proposed by a state representative, Kevin Ryan. Kevin Ryan, a longtime serving state rep in the 139th District of Connecticut, proposes a bill to the Education Committee that would allow children as young as 12 years old to not need parental rights or parental agreement or parental signatures to actually choose to get vaccinated with COVID shots. It might sound very simple to you. Well, how silly is that? If the kids want it at 12, let them have it. Well, folks, I'm sorry. What government wants is they want to take away your rights totally. They want to tell you how to live, where to live, and what to live. You don't want to make choices. You keep on supporting this. If you don't want to have an opportunity to get up and live in a free America, allow those kind of bills to pass. And it's the incremental, the inching away, the movement forward of these tiny little things that are happening, not just in our political system in Connecticut or in Washington, D.C., but in our society, our communities. Talking to Raven Harrison about what took place down in Texas when we had the president go down there to observe exactly what was going on at the border. It took so long, 2+ years, folks. 2+ years for him to actually get on the Air Force One and fly down there. And what did they do? They swept the entire area, cleaned it up, so he looked like he was walking amongst the people that were, just a clean, average, everyday America. Well, in fact, we know that's not happening. It's lawlessness. It's encouraged by his administration. It's encouraged by many political and those on the corporate media side, those in influential positions, those in Hollywood. They want to fight against those that want to have freedom. Those are like us who want to have the freedoms to choose whether or not you want to have a gun or not have a gun. Like Raven Harrison said, it's not the fact that you need to have a gun. It's the fact that you should have the choice whether or not you have the rights to have a weapon. It's not the choice whether or not your child should be given a choice whether or not to have a vaccination. It is the choice for which we worry about. It's not a choice whether or not we're allowed to say or do what we want in America, because government right now in their overreaching push wants to take our freedoms away. And it starts with First Amendment, Second Amendment, and then what? And then there's no amendments, because we'll live in a society that's controlled by rulers, the very thing that our own founding fathers tried to avoid right here in America. Before our eyes, it's taking place. And to me, that's probably the biggest wake-up call of all, how we're just all so immune, how we're all just so numb, apathetic towards this movement in this country of this overreaching government. And it's played out like on theater, like a Hollywood production. What took place in Memphis, Tennessee, and we talked obviously right out of the box with Chris Strom about this situation as a retired New York City detective and sergeant, serving also in a capacity with the military over in Baghdad. Go read the book, Brooklyn to Baghdad, Chris Strom wrote. He talked a lot about the qualifications and the issues that are taking place right now in the aftermath of this murder by 5 unqualified officers. Well, it defends that. It defends the position that Chris and I and many of us take, which is this is at the hands of those people who pushed mandates to weaken the policies, to put people in positions of authority, such as law enforcement or more, into positions with sketchy backgrounds, with questionable positions, with questionable behavior. Yet we see a movement in this country that will still protect that and endorse it. Why? Because of race. When race is the issue, that will always be a dividing question. When it becomes good versus evil, that's when we get back to the normal of a world where, you can see on a playground how kids get along. They don't get into the racial issues. They get into right versus wrong. We need to, in this country, get back to that again. And once we do, maybe, just maybe, we can start worrying about fixing America. And until then, until we can have the honest conversations about how we got here, we'll continue down this pathway. Unfortunately, let's go over to our executive producer and talk to Mark about the show today and what's going on in the future. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Let me turn my volume up.
Yeah, turn it up if you can hear me. So good show today.
Yeah, lots of comments. I'm sorry, I was actually going back and forth with an email with another viewer, so
yeah,
who had some questions and concerns, which is great.
What's with what? Talk about it.
What was going? Just everything was going on. They were really confused, and that was it. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly they wanted.
What everything going on as far as the sound here, the quality? What do you mean, like the show?
No. What's going on in the U.S.? Why?
Okay, all right.
Why they were cleaning? Why El Paso had to clean up everything before Joe's visit, and
right.
She was also asking, about Trump coming down, and actually Donald Trump did go to the border a bunch of times, but
right.
It was mostly when he was candidate Trump. He saw the problem, came up with the solution, and I think the hardest part where a lot of people were upset with Biden wouldn't come because he couldn't see for himself. They sugarcoated it, cleaned up, and now he said it wasn't that bad.
Well, we know how the political system works. I mean, clearly, it's all about let's pomp and circumstance, and we knew the Biden administration had no interest in going there, but they were forced by their own. people. And I think we talked a little bit about that as well. We'll be covering that story, and we are going to get to the southern border for a live streaming coverage. That's it will be worked out. God's got a plan for that. Mark, what's on the agenda for you this week? You know about bird hunting?
No. We're done for the season. Actually, I'm looking for evaluating a new mascot for the show. A new German Shorthair Pointer.
Oh, there you go. Really, you're going to be going to check. Now that dog can't help you hunt, right?
Oh, he's born to hunt.
Really?
Yeah, that's he's a pointing breed that's all his job is, to hunt birds and be a family protector. Supposedly it was, some people say the Germans created, it was the most versatile dog breed out there.
No kidding. Interesting. So where are you going to go check out the dog today?
Yes, sir.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, we'll go check out the dog. Let us know. I'm sure all the listeners, all the followers here want to know, get an update on your acquisition of a new pet and a new partner when it goes out to the bird hunting. When you talk about some of the Second Amendment issues, talking about bird hunting and enthusiast sportsmen, what's your feelings about the Chris Murphy of the world? Let's summarize on this point. Did you see Chris popped up the assault weapon question?
Yeah. Actually, I'm having a real hard time. Is I want to know what, especially Connecticut government, other governments, what are they doing to stop bad guys having guns? Coming after law-abiding citizens, where you have a clip, you can only have so many in your clip, stuff like that. That's cherry picking. That's the easy job. Why aren't they going, getting them off the black market? What are they doing? How come, if there's all these guns and all this bad stuff's going on, how come we're not seeing on the nightly news, FBI bust gigantic gun ring? And I'm not seeing that. It could be out there. I haven't seen it. I want to know what they're doing for the criminals.
Well, we all know that it's it's obviously a diversion game. It's, follow the bouncing ball over here so we can preoccupy you and do this over here, which happens in politics, corporate media, and more all the time. So listen, we're going to end here. Great show. Great pop-up here with Joey Guns. Folks, if you're out there anywhere in, Connecticut, like I said, right on the Mass, Rhode Island border, stop on by Route 12 in Plainfield, Connecticut. They are open. Joey Guns LLC. Go and check them out today. A great selection of all weapons. Anything you're looking to get, I can look around here right now and I can tell you there is a ginormous amount of stuff here to go choose from, and they'll help you find it if it's not here, right? And ammunition, all that stuff. Go and check them out today, and make sure you are also paying attention. Future shows, not just here, some of the shows with the guests. One of the things we're going to try to do is get more, more interactive with you folks across the country. We're going to be scheduling a lot more, pop-up interviews and pop-up also shows across the country. Mark and I are working to schedule those now. We won't get into the mobile studio discussion until we get some finalizing, but there is some good things coming for us. And only way I can summarize, and I'll end the show today on this: God is good. See you next week.